Good afternoon, you're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Tanner Khabatar. And for our top stories, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is paying an official visit to Mongolia. Bone waste is being processed to produce feed, oil and fertilizer. Mongolia's rangelands are used 3 to 3 times beyond their grazing capacity. And for the news, stay tuned. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is paying an official visit to Mongolia from August 8th through 11th on the invitation of the Mongolian President Forestry. He has been working as the 9th Secretary General of the United Nations since January 1st, 2017, and this is his first visit to Mongolia. The Mongolian President Forestry welcomed the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres at Sukhwata Square. His visit, which will last until the August 11th, coincides with the 60th anniversary of Mongolia's accession to the United Nations, the 30th anniversary of Mongolia's declaration of its nuclear weapon-free status, and the 20th anniversary of its participation in peacekeeping operations. After a speech by the commander of the State Honor Guard, the national anthem was played. The United Nations Secretary General bowed to the flag of the State Honor Guard and saluted the soldiers. The President of Mongolia and the Secretary General of the United Nations paid tribute to the statue of the great Emperor Genghis Khan. The Secretary General of the United Nations signed the guest book at State House. Since January 1st, 2017, he has been working as the 9th Secretary General of the United Nations, and Mr. Guterres said that his main goal is to ensure human rights and freedom, become a mediator of peace, and encourage reform and innovation. As part of his visit, he will meet with Mongolian President Forestry, Speaker of Parliament Zandashatar, Prime Minister Oyurtung, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Batitsig. They expressed that they will regularly exchange views on supporting the 2030 Sustainable Development Program and our Common Goals project, combating climate change, ensuring regional peace and security, and many other important issues. The last visit of the United Nations Secretary General took place in 2009 when Ban Ki-moon held that position. Mongolia joined the United Nations as the 101st member on October 27, 1961. In recent years, recycling has been gaining popularity. Besides well-known recycling materials such as plastics and cans, bone waste is another useful material that can be turned into feed, oil and fertilizer. A domestic bone processing plant is asking the public to supply more bone waste.
Domestic bone processing plants don't produce any waste. Bone remnants and animal byproducts are processed through high-pressure steam. End products range from protein for animal feed, oil for cosmetics, biodiesel to organic fertilizer. The protein produced is used for feed at many Mongolian chicken farms. A bone processing plant in Ulaanbaatar can process 100 tons of bone waste a day. But a plant engineer says they aren't working at full capacity due to an insufficient supply of bone waste and byproducts.
Currently, our plant is working at 25 to 30% capacity. At full capacity, we can process 100 tons of bone waste a day. Specifically, we can produce 45 to 50 tons of protein to 20 to 25 tons of oil a day.
According to a 2021 study, Mongolia had over 70 million livestock. Around 20 million livestock are slaughtered annually, with only 40% of the carcass used for meat. The remaining 60% is hide, bone, and other byproducts. While hides are used to produce leather, bones and other byproducts are often buried and contaminate the soil. The bone processing plant collects bone waste from the city's large markets, but they are still limited to collecting up to 10 tons a day, 1/10 of their full processing capacity. Protein Mongolia is one of only a few bone processing plants in Mongolia. They encourage the public to recycle bone waste for eco-friendly waste reduction.
The Mongolian government has set a goal to plant 1 billion trees by 2030, but it means more professionals are needed for forest management.
To achieve the campaign goal, 100 million trees have to be planted each year, which requires around 7,000 new foresters and forest engineers to prepare saplings for planting and to take care of them. Each year, only 15 to 20 forestry professionals graduate from Mongolia's top 3 universities.
We talk a lot about greenery and ecology, but we don't have enough greenery professionals nationwide. At our organization, 90% of our workforce are horticulture specialists.
There are around 200 tree nurseries in Mongolia, run by state organizations and private enterprises, employing around 2,500 specialists. The success of the 1 billion tree campaign requires more professionals in the field of forestry, and campaign organizers are encouraging more students to choose careers in environmental protection. If no action is taken to protect its dying forests, Mongolia could lose 50% of its forests by 2030.
A recent study shows Mongolia's rangelands are 2 to 3 times beyond their grazing capacity. For example, 30 to 40 livestock are being grazed on pasture meant for 10 livestock, which exhaust the land's natural resources.
Grazing capacity is the amount of forage available for grazing animals in a specific field. Once the field deteriorates, it takes up to 10 years to recover. Surveys show that Mongolia's land can accommodate 30 million livestock, but over 70 million livestock are grazing in pastures today. Two Arhanga and Urhanga have the most badly damaged pastures.
We have been witnessing rapid desertification in Urhanga province in recent years. Studies show that 70% of our province has been affected by desertification to different degrees.
The damaged pasture looks normal and lush from a distance. But if you look closely, the pasture is home to only 4 or 5 types of vegetation and is dominated by wormwood. Vegetation covers only about 50% of this area, and it's less nutritious for livestock. This is the current status of most of Mongolia's overgrazed land. Experts say that even with an enormous amount of financing, time and effort spent on reviving deteriorated land, it won't return to its original fertile state. The prevention of overgrazing is more effective for preserving rangelands. With the proper measures taken, pastures with low or mid-scale deterioration have a chance for recovery.
Here's the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
The International Research Conference Multidisciplinary Brain Science 2022 is taking place from August 8th through 13th. The Brain and Mind Research Institute at the Mongolian Academy of Sciences and the International Brain Research Organization are organizing the conference. Prominent international researchers have come to the conference from countries including Japan, South Korea, China, Russia, the US, Malaysia, and Kyrgyzstan. They will be presenting lectures on recent innovations and achievements in neuroscience and meeting with local researchers. Around 300 local and foreign scientists are participating in the event in person and online. Workshops on brain studies and psychology are also being organized as part of the event. Multidisciplinary brain science is held annually in Mongolia. The Brain and Mind Research Institute was established at the Mongolian Academy of Sciences in 2021 and has continued the legacy of organizing the international conference. The event aims to nurture young scientists and expand brain studies in Mongolia. The conference has also become a bridge between international researchers. Colonel Aruna, head of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation at the National Emergency Management Agency, recently completed a PhD program at Japan's Nagoya University. She became the first NEMA official to earn a doctoral degree from a Japanese university. Her doctoral thesis is titled Risk Management and Early Response to Zot Disaster in Mongolia. Colonel Aruna is also an Australia Awards scholarship recipient. She started her career in NEMA's State Civil Defense Department in 2001. Her research analyzed severe winters in 1991 through 2000 and 2009 and 2010 to develop guidelines for improving the management of Zot disaster response.
Here's the international news from our partner agencies. Russia has told the US it has temporarily suspended on-site inspections of its strategic nuclear weapons under an arms control treaty known as New START. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the US was seeking advantages and had deprived Russia for the right to carry out inspections on US territory. It said US sanctions imposed on Russia over Ukraine had changed conditions between the countries. The treaty came into force in 2011. It is the last remaining arms reduction agreement between the former Cold War rivals. It caps at 1,550 the number of long-range nuclear warheads that each country can deploy. The ministry said that the suspension was allowed under the treaty terms in exceptional circumstances. The suspension comes a week after US President Joe Biden said he was ready to work on a new nuclear arms deal with President Vladimir Putin. The current one will expire in 2026. The ministry accused the US of ignoring existing realities such as the suspension of normal air links. New START followed years of arms reduction talks between the US and the former USSR, aimed at preventing nuclear war. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February sparked hostile rhetoric on both sides, including warnings that the conflict could escalate into a third world war. Some commentators on Russian state media have boasted about Moscow's nuclear arsenal in the context of current tensions with NATO. The US Senate has approved a sweeping $700 billion economic package that includes major legislation on healthcare, tax and climate change. The bill seeks to lower the cost of some medicines, increase corporate taxes and reduce carbon emissions.
President.
The Majority Leader.
The passing of the bill, a flagship part of President Joe Biden's agenda, is a boost ahead of midterm elections. But it is a significantly scaled-back version of the $3.5 trillion package that was first proposed by his administration.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative and the motion to proceed is agreed to. The clerk will report the bill.
The bill, a product of 18 months of intense wrangling, passed by a margin of 51 to 50 on Sunday with Vice President Kamala Harris casting the deciding vote. It was previously blocked by two Democratic senators who shared Republican concerns about its cost. It will now be sent to the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives, where it is expected to pass in a vote on Friday before the president can sign into a law. The Inflation Reduction Act includes legislation that would allow the government to negotiate lower prices for prescription medicines provided under its Medicare health insurance program for those aged over 65. That is expected to save hundreds of billions of dollars over the next decade, according to estimates from the non-partisan Congressional Budget Office. The package also includes a minimum 15% tax on most corporations that make more than $1 billion a year in profits. That measure, an issue of contention during negotiations in Congress, is opposed by business groups who argue it will limit investment. The bill also includes $369 billion for climate action, the largest investment in the issue in the U.S. history. Some households could receive up to $7,500 in tax credits to buy an electric car or $4,000 for a used car. Billions will also be spent in an effort to speed up the production of clean technology such as solar panels and wind turbines. There will also be $60 billion given to communities that have suffered the most from fossil fuel pollution. The authors of the bill say it will cut the country's carbon emission by 40% by 2030.
And spending spree.
Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. England are celebrating a record haul of 176 medals at the 2022 Commonwealth Games. It passed the mark of 174 from Glasgow 2014, with 57 golds in Birmingham, one behind the tally from 8 years ago. England finished with a record of 176 medals, 57 of them gold, at Birmingham 2022, but fell narrowly short of the goal of outperforming table-topping Australia at the home Commonwealth Games. Driven by dominance across sports such as gymnastics and diving, England beat their previous record of 174 at Glasgow 2014. Although Australia finished ahead on the leaderboard with 178 medals, Team England's Jeff the Mission, Mark England, held the efforts of his team. The success was mirrored by the other home nations. Northern Ireland also registered its best games with 18 medals, its significant success driven by an incredible Sunday in the boxing, as Northern Irish boxers dominated the medal leaderboard, taking 5 gold medals and 7 overall. Scotland produced its second-best Commonwealth Games medal haul, winning 51 medals, only 3 behind the record 54 won at home in Glasgow. Wales finished Birmingham 2022 with 28 medals. According to the Birmingham 2022 Chief Executive Ryan Reid, more than 1.7 million tickets were sold for the event, with the final figures yet to be published. "We are very much in the region of this being the biggest and most successful Commonwealth Games," he has said. As the 2022 Commonwealth Games ends, eyes will shift to the Paris 2024 Olympics, now only 2 years away. England argued that the Commonwealth Games remain hugely relevant, providing athletes with a rare experience of a multi-sport games while performing against elite opposition. He believes that the next Olympics on the other side of the English Channel will be likely a home game, with many athletes who emerged in Birmingham continuing their journey in France. It was quite a week for Russia's professional tennis players, with 3 titles in 4 tournaments. This comes shortly after they were banned from competing at Wimbledon because of the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Lyudmila Samsonova earned her trophy in Washington a day after Medvedev, who leads the men's rankings, defeated Britain's Cam Norrie for the championships at Los Cabos, Mexico, and several hours before Kasatkina won the title in San Jose, California, with a victory over American Shelby Rogers. All 3 events are hardcore tune-ups ahead of the year's last Grand Slam tournament, the US Open, which begins in New York on August 29th. Medvedev is the defending champion there. The world's 4th title, the men's event at the City Open, was won by Australia's Nick Kyrgios, and Russian Andrei Rublev reached the semi-finals.
I guess I just won the World Cup, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, Cameron, I just want to say that you're a great player, a great person. You're already on the top of the game. I mean, you play in semi-finals of slams, winning a lot of tournaments. You're practicing hard, so I'm sure you're going to have a lot more success than you have even now. And congrats to you and your team. And yeah, hopefully many more practices and many more finals to come in.
A few weeks ago, I didn't have the visa to come to United States, so for me it's amazing to be here and to win the title. And thank you so much to the crowd for the amazing atmosphere. You're amazing guys, seriously.
At the previous Grand Slam event, Wimbledon, which ran from late June into July, all athletes from Russia and Belarus were blocked by the All England Club from participating because of the attack on Ukraine. That prompted the WTA and ATP professional tours to withhold ranking points from the tournament, meaning whatever was earned there in 2021 fell off a place record and could not be replaced with how they fared this year. When Samsonova arrived in Washington a week ago, her ranking had dropped from a career best of 25th in May to 60th, and she had not played a match on tour since June. That might have meant missing not just the City Open, but also other tournaments in the country, including perhaps the US Open. Unlike the All England Club, the US Tennis Association announced it would permit athletes from Russia and Belarus to enter the draws. Fortunately, Samsonova said it did work out, otherwise she might have gone back to Europe to play in some lower-level events.
I really loved everything, so thanks to...
Here's the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.